Alright, so today we are working on a house that is going on the market. And this roof back here is too shallow to have shingles on it, which eventually caused problems because the roof's too shallow. The water actually does run uphill and it will get underneath the shingles and cause problems. So usually if your roof is under probably a 4/12 pitch, which means every 12 inches it goes up 4, you need to have flat rolled roofing, and I'll kind of show you what that means. But anything under that, if you put shingled roofing on it, it's just going to cause problems. These trees up here haven't helped the matter. There's been some limbs fall. You can see where our main issue is. This roof is spongy in quite a few spots. So over the years, you can see here where I started lifting it up, and it's wet underneath on the top of the tar paper underneath the shingle. So it should have never been done this way. The limbs from these big trees didn't help either, but what I'm going to do is demo all these shingles. And then I have a shed. It was about a 12 by 8 that I demoed last weekend. So I'm going to tear these shingles off, throw them all in the trailer, and then we'll come back to kind of repairing this after the fact. But demoing the shingles, easiest thing to do is get you a flat bar like this, get it started. Run it underneath there, and once you get it started, use this little tool right here. It's got a wedge on the back, and this is specifically made for demoing shingles. So it all depends on how experienced you are with it. It's kind of hard to do with one hand, but you use this to pull the shingles up. And once you get it going and flowing, it'll pull the nails up and the shingles all with the same tool. So I don't want to record while I'm doing this because, like I said, there is a couple weak spots here. So I'm going to go ahead and demo all this, and then I'll come back to you. Thanks. Alright, so I got about a third of it done. I don't do this all the time, so it takes a while to get the hang of that tool. And that tool is really made for a steeper roof, so you got to bend over quite a bit to get the right angle since this is such a shallow pitch. One of my many excuses, I guess. So I am stopping right here because I'm not touching the roof of the house, and this is right where it ties into the house. So what I want to do before I get all the shingles all the way up here is to cut them out from underneath there. And I need to make this last layer look good because I'm going to put the rolled roofing up underneath these shingles. So what I'm doing is just taking this flat bar, which is what I used to start out, and just running it up underneath here. I have to get a tripod. And then pulling the shingles out from underneath the row I want to keep. I'm going to keep that up all the way down through here, and then that'll make a nice clean line that I can push the rolled roofing up underneath. And I was hoping to salvage the tar paper, but it don't look like it. So, I don't know, maybe a third, possibly. So, I'll be back. Alright, back at it bright and early this morning. Got about a third of a trailer of crap and shingles all over the place. We'll get that cleaned up today. Also supposed to clean up this backyard. There's what she looks like in the mirror. Alright, this is where I left it last night. Like I said, all that's busted loose. It's just sitting there. I gotta tackle this morning, and then hopefully about lunch I can go get the materials. I'm gonna tear all this off, get all the rotten stuff out. Appears to be right through here for some reason is where it's all rotten. This tongue down here doesn't look bad, but about everything in this area is rotten. So, alright, I'm gonna get after it, and I'll come back to you when I get all this ripped off. Alright, so here it is. Got all the shingles off. Still got some cleanup I got to do up here around the edge where we tie into the existing roof. There are some wavy spots. You probably can't see it on the phone. Both the eaves on this are like almost 24 inches, which is kind of drastic. Usually 12, 16 is kind of average, at least in this area, for your eave around the outside, which is the overhang from the edge of the house. Like I said, these are actually like 24 inches. And they apparently didn't tie them in right, because this whole thing is slanted. Let me hold the phone right, you can kind of see it there. But it's the same on the other side. I could correct that, but that's not what I bid on. My bid was to demo the roof and shingling, replace all the rotten spots. You see there's a huge one there, all down through here, replacing all these rotten spots and putting new rolled roofing on. So it would be quite a bit more expensive for me to rip everything off and reframe to do it the right way. Another thing that I found, these aren't actually the spacers that you're supposed to have, but there are 1/8 inch spacers that are supposed to be in between this plywood all the way through here. You usually put 2 on your sides on your 48 inch mark, and at least 3 on your wide side, your 8-foot side. And what that's for is wood expands and contracts, and if you place this wood right up against one another, you may see it sometimes where the roof is bowed. And you can almost see when it's drastic, you can almost see the outline of the plywood. So the only place they put those expansion spacers is right up here at the top, and they only did them basically right here. And those aren't the standard expansion spacers that I'm used to seeing, so that's another issue that I've seen. So most of the rot, there are some wavy spots here. It's probably because they did it on, they may have not framed it right to start with, I would say, just based off everything else I've seen that's not right. There are some wavy spots. Unfortunately, since it was shingled, a lot of that was hidden. Rolled roofing, it's going to stand out, but like I said, I didn't bid on that portion. So right through here is where all the rot's at. I'm not real sure why. Maybe that's where all the trees stuff fell, but this actually has the siding underneath falling through. You need to be careful because this is all sop and wet. There's 2x6 framing. I'm gonna have to cut that and splice in new. So my next objective is to rip this out, all the rotten stuff. And with water damage, basically what you do is keep tearing out until you get to something good that you can tie to. So all along here is a rotten spot. So I'm at least going to have to replace 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, possibly, say, 10 or 12 sheets of OSB that's going to have to come back in. So the next step is to tear off this rotten stuff. Then I'll see what's structurally damaged, and then we just start rebuilding from there. So let me take care of this demo, and then I'll come back to you. You can kind of see what all's damaged. Thanks. Alright, so I need about 9 sheets of OSB. I still need to take that piece off. Got a partial there. And then I do have some rafters that are going to need to be replaced. Usually with the rule I use, if it's just surface rot and it's not deep, like this is only, finger out of the way, it's only right there on top, the board is still solid, I wouldn't worry about replacing that. That one's in pretty good shape. This one here is rotten. And usually what I do, if it's solid at least 3/4 of the board, then I will just splice to it versus cutting that out and splicing a whole piece, because unless you replace the entire rafter, you're causing a weak spot. So if at least 3/4 of that 2x6 is still there, you can splice to it and keep the structural integrity of the entire length just by patching that one spot. So it gives you something to nail into and braces the one spot that's rotten. So these just have surface rot on top, they're not bad. So I'm going to need about a 10-footer there. This one's rotten about 1/3 of the way and about 1/4 of the way down, so I'm going to splice against it. And sometimes you'll have rot on the side of the board, but it's not actually penetrating the wood. So you just need to use your best judgment on that. I mean, ideally you'd just rip everything out that's got any kind of rot on it, but like I said, these are probably almost 24-foot 2x6s. You have to rip the rest of this up, pull the whole thing out and replace the whole thing. So I've got 2 here that I'm going to have to splice. I'll have to take those all the way out. So these I will go back on each side. I'll probably just replace the tail, but you want to go back about 1/3 of the distance that you're coming out. So I'll probably splice back in up underneath that piece there and tie into it, and then I'll have to replace these 2 2x6s. Need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Say 6 2x6x12s. So 4, 4, 4. Yeah, no 12s. 2x6x12. 6 2x6x12s and 9 sheets of 7/16 OSB. So I gotta run to the parts store and grab that, and then I will be back. We'll splice it in. Still got to do some cleanup, got to knock all the nails off of the 2x6s, but I'll do that as I come down through here and replace what needs to be replaced. And then this has vinyl siding underneath it, so the stuff that's rotten underneath I'll replace from the bottom, because I'm going to have to pull all the vinyl siding out, pop the boards out that are rotten, and I'll splice in the new 2x6s when I do that. So easier to do that from below. Possibly. I do have, let me go ahead and do those now. Got 1, 2, 3, 4. These are alright. There's another 4, probably 4 8-footers. 4 8-footers. 6 12-footers. And that'll get me the wood that I need. So let me go run and get that, and then we'll come back to it. Alright, so I'm back. I didn't get to film splicing all this. It was just me bouncing around on these rafters. So without a tripod or anything, it's kind of dangerous to film all that. But basically spliced 2 of the ones that were rotten. Ran them all the way out. Tried to set them on the header out there if possible. And this in here, I basically had to rebuild all of this. It was all rotten. But it's secure now, so now I'm going to start nailing the OSB out. And then when I get it nailed on, I'll come back and start rolling felt paper. So, one step at a time. Alright, so I got all the decking replaced. Got it all cleaned up, ready for tar paper. It's always good before you do this to walk around and make sure you got all your nails out, and you're inevitably going to miss one like I did. So keep your hammer with you as you go. The wind is whipping pretty good, so this ought to be fun. Got the decking down, nails. So the next thing to do is to roll the tar paper out. I'm going to use a slap gun for this. Those of you that don't know what that is, it is a staple gun that works like a hammer. So when you smack it, it drives a staple in. They are invaluable when you're rolling out felt paper. And if you're going to have felt paper on for a while, it's probably good not to use staples. Or at least use something besides with the staples, because these won't hold down for high gust of winds. They're kind of hold it down temporarily while you get your roofing on top of it. So I'm going to go ahead and roll this out, and I'll come back to you when I get all this rolled. You start at the bottom and then layer it. There's usually a mark on the felt paper. I usually overlap at about 2 inches. So I'll start here, and then I'll lap the next one 2 inches, so on and so forth, all the way up. And then when you get to the top, you want to run some up underneath the shingles, at least 2 shingles up inside, to give it a good tie-in with the existing roof. So here we go. Alright, got my first row down. You'll see there's lines on here. It's to help you line out your shingles when you're laying them. But when you're laying it, and you're inevitably going to have it tear out like that, use this line for your overlap. So it kind of works the same as shingles. As long as you get your beginning straight, the rest of it will be straight. It's not as important with felt paper. You do want a good overlap though, so that's about 2 inches. About every 16 inches, run you about 4 staples across, and that'll be enough to hold it. The back of your slap, don't forget what I call it. The back of this slap gun has a hammer on it, so you can use that to hammer in your, like these that didn't get in far enough. You can use the back of it to drive those in. So that's it. Alright folks, got the felt paper and the rolled roofing on. I didn't record any of that. I need to get a tripod or a GoPro or something. With the rolled roofing, you gotta lay it out. You can't really do it like you do the felt paper, at least I can't. When you're doing it by yourself, you gotta roll it all the way out, line it up, get it even, and then you nail your sides. You don't nail the bottom or the exposed part. I just caulked roofer's caulk underneath it, and that'll seal the seams together. That's that black that you're seeing. It's a lot easier to do this in the summertime because in the sun's, when this stuff is warm, I don't have to fix that. When the stuff is warm, it sets out real easy. It's about 45 degrees out, so it's not as pliable, but it is in. I'll have to come back and trim up my edges. It's about dark by the time I put all my tools up. It will be. So got her dead. I still got to cut in the vent pipe for the gas hot water heater, but I got the drain boot fixed, and I still got a ton of cleanup. So y'all have a good one.